Good evening. Am I audible to all of you? Yes? Okay. So today we are going to discuss critical reasoning. We are covering some topics, just the theory, so that we can start our practice sessions. So we have taken parajumbles, we have taken paragraph completion, and today we are going to take critical reasoning. Even though critical reasoning is logic based, there is no formula here. But we'll just take a look at certain things and also certain questions from the previous papers. Anybody has any query regarding any of the sessions that we have already covered? Anything that you do not understand, please ask. Anybody? Okay, so let's start with critical reasoning. This topic is going to come handy if you are preparing for GMAT as well, because in GMAT verbal, one third of the paper is based on critical reasoning. Okay, now, for critical reasoning questions, before I actually show you some questions, you need to first understand the structure. You need to understand the argument structure. Okay. Pragya, your question is, are all the videos of para completion uploaded? There were two sessions. In para completion, we have had two sessions. Practice sessions, we will start. We will start with the workshop. You can check whether the videos for these two sessions have been uploaded or not. Okay. Okay. So, what is the argument structure? What do you see in critical reasoning? In critical reasoning, okay, in critical reasoning, you will have to read. You will have to read a brief arguments. Okay, you will have to read brief arguments. Arguments basically are nothing but the paragraph that you see in front of you, and this paragraph can be from one sentence to five sentences long. Sometimes it can be six, seven sentences long also. And based on the reading of this paragraph, you will answer questions that will relate to these arguments. Okay. Yes, Pragya, I will look into it. If it has not been uploaded, I'll get it uploaded. Okay. So I told you, you will read a paragraph, and based on your reading, you will answer some questions relating to, to that paragraph. Now, what are you going to see in the paragraph? Okay. What are you going to see in the paragraph? We all know that whenever you form any conclusion, your conclusion is based on reasons, isn't it? Your conclusion is based on reasons. There are some reasons which we state, and there are some reasons which we do not state. Okay? Those reasons that we state, they are called premises. Those reasons that we do not state, they are called assumptions. But we form our conclusion on the basis of premises and assumptions. So, premises and assumptions are nothing but reasons because of which we have come to a conclusion. However, there is a difference between premises and assumptions. Why? Because there are some reasons that I will tell you, and there are some reasons which, even though I don't tell you, but it is implicit. So remember, the difference between premises and assumption is that premises are stated pieces of information or evidence that will provide support for the conclusion. So they will be stated, they will be right there in front of you. And you will understand that on the basis of these premises, somebody has formed a conclusion. Okay? However, there are other reasons also which are not stated. These, these are called assumptions. Assumptions are nothing but reasons that are unstated, and remember, they are absolutely necessary to reach the given conclusion because they are also reasons. Your conclusion is based on a reason. Without a reason, if you are forming a conclusion, then your conclusion is going to be invalid, isn't it? So even if I don't state a reason, but if you understand from what I'm trying to say, if you understand that there is a reason behind it, so the reason that is behind that is not stated, it is called an assumption. And because assumptions are never stated, you will never see them written there in front of you. And that is why in the formula above, the word assumptions has been put in parentheses to signal to you that assumptions are never stated in the written arguments. Okay. Based on premises and assumptions, based on reasons that are stated or unstated, we form our conclusion. The main part, the main part is actually the conclusion, which is supported by both assumptions and premises. It is very important for you to understand. It is very important for you to find out what is the conclusion, because unless you know what is the conclusion, you will not be able to answer the question. Almost every question will ask you to do something about the conclusion. It will ask you to strengthen the conclusion, weaken the conclusion, find out the assumptions of the conclusion. Okay, so it is very important that you understand what is the conclusion. Most of the times, conclusions are fairly easy to identify. You can very easily understand what is the conclusion of that particular paragraph. But in some difficult questions, they will write they will write the sentences in such a way that you will get a feeling that there are two conclusions, and then all the problem arises. If you cannot make up your mind which one of these two sentences is the conclusion, what are you going to strengthen, what are you going to weaken? Okay, so this is the structure of the argument that you're going to read, the paragraph that you're going to read. Okay, I will give you an example over here. I'll just switch to the whiteboard. If I write something like this, if I say Joe cannot play basketball. Okay, Joe cannot play basketball because he is not 6 feet tall. Can you see this whiteboard? It says Joe cannot play basketball because he is not 6 feet tall. So when I look at this, then I know that this first sentence, that Joe cannot play basketball, is actually a conclusion. This is what I am concluding. Now, my conclusion is based on a reason. The reason is that he is not 6 feet tall. This is the reason. And because this reason is stated, that is why in critical reasoning terminology, it is called a premise. It is a premise. That means it is a reason that is stated. Okay. However, to conclude that Joe cannot play basketball, there is another reason why I'm concluding that Joe cannot play basketball, even though I am not telling you anything about it. That reason is actually called the assumption. So even if it's not stated, you understand that this guy, he has based his conclusion on a particular reason, and that reason is unstated. Can you tell me what is the assumption? What is the unstated reason based on which this conclusion is based? Anybody? Joe cannot play basketball because he's not 6 feet tall. So I'm assuming means this is a reason that I'm taking for granted. I'm assuming, it is my assumption that 6 feet height is mandatory. Yes or no? 6 feet height is mandatory to play basketball. If I don't take this reason, yes or no? What am I assuming? I'm assuming that 6 feet height is mandatory to play basketball. Yes, 6 feet height is compulsory for basketball, absolutely. So 6 feet height is mandatory to play basketball. Only when I accept this reason, only then I can form the conclusion that Joe cannot play basketball. Otherwise, merely saying he is not 6 feet tall does not lead me to the conclusion that he cannot play basketball. Are you getting this? I have given you a very simple example. Now, why I have given you this example? Because I wanted to show to you that assumptions They are they are very important. They are very important. Assumptions are very important. Without this assumption, you cannot come to the conclusion. Without the assumption, you cannot come to the conclusion. That means, because an assumption will lead to a conclusion, that means assumptions, just like premises, they always support, they always support the conclusion, isn't it? They always support the conclusion. Similarly, remember this, assumptions will always support. Assumptions will always support conclusion. If I ask you what is the assumption of a particular conclusion, that means that you are looking for something that is supporting the conclusion. This is very important, because premise and assumptions, they are nothing but reasons, and reasons support conclusion. The only difference is that one of them is stated and the other one is unstated. Okay, so remember, whenever in a passage they ask you what is the assumption of the argument. When they ask a question like this, then from the options, what are you going to find out? You are going to look for that option which is supporting the conclusion. Okay, okay. Now I have some questions over here. Jatin, you are saying, but in assumption it would not be written that 6 feet is mandatory. Yes, it will not be written. It is not written. Assumptions are never written there. Assumptions will be in your options. Okay, so if I ask you a question, Joe cannot play basketball because he is not 6 feet tall. What is the assumption of this argument? What is going to be your answer? Your answer is going to be 6 feet height is mandatory to play basketball. This is the assumption. Without the assumption, you cannot come to the conclusion, and that is why assumptions are very important. Assumptions, what do they do? What do assumptions do? Assumptions will always support the conclusion. So if there is any option that is not supporting the conclusion, it cannot be the assumption. Remember that. It cannot be the assumption. Are you getting this? Did you understand? Okay. Anupam, premise. Okay. Premises are those reasons that are stated. They also support the conclusion. They also support the conclusion. Okay. But most of the times you will see that only on the basis of premise, your conclusion is not going to be foolproof. Many times you can question the conclusion that is based on certain premises. It is the assumptions that provide the crucial link. It is the assumption that provides the most support to the conclusion. Did you get this? So both of them, premise and assumptions, both of them, they are reasons. Only thing is one is stated and the other one is not stated. Because assumptions are not stated, that is why they will always ask you questions on assumptions. They want to know whether you understand what is that crucial thing which is going to support the conclusion. Okay, this should be absolutely clear to everyone. It should be absolutely clear that conclusions are based on reasons. Those reasons can be stated or unstated. Stated reasons are premises, and unstated reasons are assumptions. Remember this. Now let's come to the next part over here. He's saying, let's see. This is a paragraph. It says, vehicles use fuels like petrol and diesel, which cause a lot of pollution and threaten the environment with global warming. Fuels like CNG and methanol are much cleaner. Therefore, the replacement of petrol and diesel fuels in vehicles with the cleaner ones will save us from global warming. Now, we immediately know that this last line is our conclusion. We know that. Okay. This is what he's trying to prove. This is the conclusion. Now remember, whatever you see in front of you, the paragraph that you see in front of you, apart from the conclusion, everything else that is mentioned, they are nothing but premises. They can be nothing else. Apart from the conclusion, everything else that is mentioned, whether it is one sentence, two sentences, three sentences, five sentences, 10 sentences, that is immaterial. All of them are going to be premises. All of them are reasons on which he is trying to form his conclusion. So if I ask you in this particular paragraph, where are the premises, then your answer is going to be very simple. Because everything except the conclusion is considered as a premise. That is why in this particular example, each of the first two sentences is a premise. So there are two premises here. Number one, vehicles use fuels like petrol and diesel, which cause a lot of pollution and threaten the environment with global warming. This is the first one. And the second one is fuels like CNG and methanol are much cleaner. And the conclusion also is very obvious. Conclusion also is very, very obvious. The last line is the conclusion. Okay. So if I ask you where is the conclusion, we know the last line. The conclusion is the last statement. In this case, it is easy. In this case, it is very easy for you to find out what is the conclusion. But I will show you an example where it can get a little bit complicated also. Did you get this? Till now, anybody has any issue? Okay, now my question is, what is the assumption? In this particular paragraph, we have the premises, we have the conclusion. What is the assumption? Where are the assumptions? Assumptions are not going to be stated anywhere. Okay, assumptions are not going to be stated anywhere. But without the assumption, you cannot prove the conclusion. So something that will with most certainty prove the conclusion is going to be your assumption. So let us check. Let us check. If I ask you to identify the parts of the argument and I ask you to find out where are the assumptions, then you already know that, excuse me, assumptions are unstated parts of the argument. Therefore, you will never find an assumption stated in an argument. However, assumptions are necessary to reach the given conclusion. Without the assumption, you cannot conclude whatever you are trying to conclude. And that is why, if you want to find out what is the assumption, always think, what more can I say to support this particular conclusion? How can I support this conclusion? Without this support, the conclusion will fall. So in the present case, the present example that we were discussing, what is it that you can say that will support the conclusion? Ask yourself, and here is the answer. The question tells you that petrol and diesel, they cause a lot of pollution and they threaten the environment with global warming. Fuels like CNG and methanol are much cleaner, and that is why if we replace petrol and diesel fuels with cleaner ones, it will save us from global warming. Question is, what more can you say to support the conclusion? He's asking you, he's telling you that replace petrol and diesel in the vehicles. When you replace petrol and diesel in the vehicles, it will save us from global warming. That means to prove this conclusion, I will have to assume, or I will have to say that vehicle pollution is the only major threat to global warming. Okay? Because if vehicle pollution is not the only major threat to global warming, then even if I change the fuel in the vehicles, I will not save the world from global warming. So in order to prove that replacing petrol and diesel fuels in vehicles will save us from global warming, the assumption is that pollution by vehicles is the only major threat to global warming. Without this assumption, the conclusion will fall. Otherwise, somebody will say, okay, I have replaced the petrol and diesel in vehicles, but what about cutting of trees? Global warming happens because of cutting of trees. Okay, deforestation. So even if I replace the fuels in the vehicles, but I continue with cutting of trees, how are you going to solve the problem of global warming? Anybody can raise objections. So you will have to say with certainty that the only threat to global warming is from vehicle pollution, and that is why I am asking you to change the fuel in the vehicles, switch to cleaner fuels. If I do not make this assumption, then my conclusion is not valid. It will fail. Did you get this? Did you understand? Again, this assumption will make sense because if vehicle pollution is not the only major threat to global warming, then reducing it will not really save us from global warming. So you can see this assumption, it most strongly supports the conclusion. It most strongly supports the conclusion. So assumptions will always support the conclusion very, very strongly. So whenever they ask you what is the assumption, look for an option that is most strongly supporting the conclusion. Okay, till now it's clear for everyone. Okay, good. Very, very good. So this is the basic. This is the basic structure. Okay, this is what you'll find in majority of the cases. This is how premises will be presented to you. This is how conclusions are going to be presented to you. So I told you that conclusions will matter. Everything is based on the conclusion. Okay. Normally, in majority of the cases, arguments would be written in such a manner that the conclusion is fairly easy to identify. You will have no difficulty in finding out what is the conclusion because they will generally present conclusions in two different ways. If not in the paragraph itself, then the question that they ask you, in that question, they will either include the conclusion or they will give you some hints about the conclusion. That's possible. So when you read the question, you will understand what is the conclusion. Or majority of the times, the argument will contain a very obvious conclusion. At least it'll be very straight in a very straightforward manner. It will be written that this is something which we can conclude. So either the conclusion would be somewhere in the question, or it will be very obvious in the paragraph itself. I'll show you an example of both. Type A. Type A, the conclusion is in the question. Over here, you can see it says some universities are changing the structure of financial aid awards given to students who cannot afford to pay full tuition. In the past, the largest proportion of financial aid distributed to students was in the form of federal interest deferred loans. Now, these institutions are awarding a higher proportion of grants, money that students do not need to pay back. Okay, now there is no conclusion here. If you see, there's no conclusion. He's just giving you general information that the financial aid that will be given to students, the structure will change. Earlier, it was in the form of loans, which the students had to pay. Now, it is going to be in the form of grants, and students will not have to repay that money. Then the question is asking you, if on the basis of the evidence above, it is argued, means it is concluded. So he's now going to tell you what is the conclusion. It is concluded that the shift from loans to grant awards gives students the freedom to choose careers in less lucrative professions. Which of the following, if true, would most seriously weaken that argument? So over here is the conclusion. The conclusion is that when you change the way in which you provide financial aid to the students, you are shifting from loans to grants. And when you shift from loans to grants, the students get more freedom to choose careers in even those professions that may be less lucrative because it is the money given to them. They can do whatever they want to do with that money. They can take up any course that they like, even if that course or even if that profession is a less lucrative profession. However, when you give grants, then the students get more freedom. This is the conclusion. And this question is asking you to weaken the conclusion. What will weaken the conclusion? Means what will prove that no, giving grants to students does not give them freedom to choose careers. Those options are not there. Those options are not there. This is just an example. Okay. So now you saw over here that the conclusion of this argument is given in the question itself. The conclusion is given in the question itself. This is one form. This is one way in which they are going to present the conclusion to you. And the second form, which is the very obvious form, most of the arguments will follow the second pattern, that the argument will contain an obvious conclusion. For example, here it says, transportation safety data indicate that trains are safer than cars and that airplanes are safer than trains. Injuries and deaths per passenger mile of airplane travel are less than one tenth the figure for car travel. Therefore, buses must also be more dangerous than airplanes. It is very obvious that this last line over here is the conclusion. The question is asking you which of the following, if true, will significantly weaken this argument. What will prove this conclusion wrong? Weaken the argument means what will prove this conclusion wrong. So over here you see this entire portion, this is two sentences. They are premises. They are the premises, okay? And this is the conclusion, right? Anybody has any doubt? Uh, you asking me what is weaken the argument? Weaken the argument means how are you going to prove the argument wrong? How are you going to prove the argument wrong? That means how are you going to, the argument means nothing but the conclusion. Argument is nothing but the conclusion. Okay? Okay, Jatin, what is weaken the argument? In this particular question you're asking me, for this particular question, which of the following, if true, will most significantly weaken the argument? What will weaken the argument will be in the options. The options that you will get in this question. From those options, you will have to check which one of them does not support the conclusion at all. Right now, your question is hypothetical. Yes, the premises are supporting the conclusion. I understand. Premises always support the conclusion, but that does not mean that the conclusion is right. Premises support the conclusion, but that does not necessarily mean that the conclusion is right. Okay. Okay. So when they ask you to weaken the argument, they're asking you to find flaws in the conclusion. And what thing can you say which will bring about a flaw, which will talk about a flaw in the conclusion? That is going to be in the options. So this in this particular case, as for the majority of questions, the argument will contain a very, very clear signal word or expression which will indicate the conclusion. It will tell you what is the conclusion. So over here, it's very, very clear, very, very obvious that this last statement is the conclusion, and we have to prove that this conclusion is wrong. How we will prove this conclusion is wrong? Those options, they would be in the options. We will have to read each option individually and see whether it is proving the conclusion wrong or not. Okay? Okay. Now let me introduce a little bit complication. Till now, anybody has any doubt? Till now, anybody has any problem, any doubt? No. Okay. Now let's come to a question like this. See, over here he says certain genetic diseases are more prevalent among certain ethnic populations. For example, Tay-Sachs disease, a usually fatal genetic condition caused by the buildup of gangliosides in nerve cells, occurs more frequently among Ashkenazi Jews than among the general population. It stops here. This paragraph stops here. Now the question is, where is the conclusion? The question does not contain any clue, neither does the body of the argument. In fact, the argument does not contain a conclusion at all. There's no conclusion here. So there would be some critical reasoning questions. Some critical reasoning questions, what they will do is that they will ask you to read all this, and based on this, they will ask you to draw a conclusion. They will ask you to make an inference. Okay, so that means the conclusion will be in the answer choices. So they have given you certain material, they have given you premises. Based on these premises, they will ask you which of the following assertions can be properly drawn from the above information. So what can you conclude? Based on all these premises over here that are stated, what can you conclude? So no conclusion is there in the paragraph itself. The conclusion is something which you will have to find from the options. This also happens many times. Okay, so the question will ask you for a conclusion. The conclusion will not be there. Okay. Apart from this, other complications. There can be other complications also. Many times you will come across paragraphs where you will have a confusion. There are two sentences which look equally good as conclusions. Why are we discussing conclusions? Because they are the most important thing in critical reasoning. Most of the questions are based on the conclusion. So if you don't know what is the conclusion, you will not be able to do anything about that question. Okay. So over here, I will show you an example of a question where it becomes complicated because we get a feeling that there are two conclusions and we have to make up our mind which one is the main conclusion. So how to find out which one is the main conclusion if there are two sentences that look like conclusions? Let's see. Okay, I told you, as we discussed earlier, the primary patterns will appear in the vast majority of the cases. That means in the vast majority of the cases, the conclusion will be either in the question itself or it will be obvious. You will very obviously know what is the conclusion. But there are a few minor and difficult questions. I mean, on some difficult questions, you may need to work a little bit harder to find the conclusion. Okay. Whenever you are in doubt, whenever two statements look equally good as conclusions, you should use something called the therefore test. What is the therefore test? I will just now tell you. But remember, we are using the therefore test because we want to find out the final claim. The conclusion of the argument is the final claim. Every other claim will lead to this final claim. So if there are two statements, let's say one statement, I will actually read one statement as X, the other statement I will read as Y. And I have a confusion. Which one is the conclusion? Is it X or is it Y? If you are in such a situation, what you should do, read it like this. First read statement X, then say therefore, and then say Y. If this makes sense, Y is the conclusion. Or if this does not make sense, then read it the other way around. First read statement Y, then say the word therefore, Y, therefore X. If this makes sense, then X is the conclusion. It's as simple as that. Okay? You treat one of the statements as X and the other statement as Y. Read it X therefore Y or Y therefore X. Whichever makes sense, that will tell you what is your conclusion. For example, whatever I just told you here, it's mentioned over here. If you have two claims, if you have confusion between two statements, consider one to be X and the other one to be Y, and then ask yourself, does X lead to Y or does Y lead to X? If X therefore Y works, that means Y is the conclusion. If Y therefore X works, then that means X is the conclusion. It's as simple as that. Okay, this is called the therefore test. This is called the therefore test for those questions where you have difficulty in finding out the conclusion. For example, let's see what the argument is saying. The manager is saying that the new manufacturing process should save us time in the end. Even though the first step of the 5-step process will take twice as long as it does under the old process. Far fewer of the components will be found defective, and the sole purpose of steps 2 and 3 under the old process is to weed out defective components. As a result, we should be able to eliminate 2 of the 5 steps in the existing manufacturing process. If you have read this paragraph very carefully, then you will see that there are 2 statements that can work as conclusions. One is the last one. As a result, we should be able to eliminate 2 of the 5 steps in the existing manufacturing process, right? If you read it carefully, even the first one looks like a conclusion. The manufacturing process should save us time. The manufacturing process should save us time. This also is a conclusion. And he is saying this because there are certain reasons that he has mentioned. Now there's a confusion. There's a confusion. Which one is the conclusion? Most of us, what we'll do, because over here we see as a result written over here, most of us will say the conclusion. The last sentence is the conclusion. But if you read it carefully, you'll understand that even the first statement can work like the conclusion. And that is why we can say there are 2 major claims in this argument. The first claim, I will treat it as X. What is X? This statement. The new process should save us time. And Y is we should be able to eliminate 2 of the 5 steps in the process. This last statement. So one is X, other one is Y. So we are going to read it like this: X therefore Y or Y therefore X. Let's see. If we read it like this, X therefore Y or Y therefore X, what happens? What happens? The new process should save us time. Therefore, we should be able to eliminate 2 of the 5 steps in the process. Does this make sense? Or we should be able to eliminate 2 of the 5 steps in the process. Therefore, the new process will save us time. I think the second one makes sense. Because 2 of the 5 steps will be eliminated, that is why we'll save time. So second one looks good. Second one looks good, which means our conclusion is X and not Y. Okay? So in this case, Y leads to X. That means first we will have to eliminate 2 of the 5 steps, and then as a result of that elimination, the new process will save us time. And that is why that very first statement, which many of us did not even consider as a conclusion, that is the conclusion for this question. Also notice that you could have been easily distracted by the expression in front of the claim Y. In front of the claim Y, this expression, as a result, many of you would have thought that, oh, This tells us that this is the conclusion. But that's not true. That's not correct. So you will have to read it slowly. You will have to read it slowly. Only then you will be able to, many times you will be able to find out that, oh, this also can be conclusion. Otherwise, most of you would have thought that this last statement that starts with the words as a result, that is the conclusion, and you would be looking for answers accordingly, and your entire attempt would go wrong. It will be a waste of time. Okay? Did you understand what we did? Okay. However, remember that you should use the therefore test only, only if there is confusion. Majority of the times, finding the conclusion is going to be easy for you. Majority of the times. It is not something that you can use on for every question. Only when you are really, really stuck, then only you should use the therefore test. Otherwise, you should follow the normal pattern, and majority of the questions will follow the normal pattern. This is only for some complicated cases. Okay, remember that. Okay, this is the basic structure. This is the basic structure of critical reasoning. Okay, this is the basic structure of critical reasoning. Now, critical reasoning, if you understand the basic structure, then it's very simple. Critical reasoning requires no formula. Critical reasoning requires common sense. So, critical reasoning is a test of your common sense. For example, if you go to a judge, if you go to a judge and say, Your Honor, this man was in possession of a pistol. This man was in possession of a pistol, and that is why he is the murderer. Okay? This man was in possession of the pistol, and that is why he is the murderer. That is why this guy should be sent behind bars. What will the judge say to you? Get lost. Yes or no? The mere possession of a pistol does not prove that he is the murderer. The mere, fingerprints. If the pistol, even if the pistol has fingerprints of that person, does it automatically prove that that person is the murderer? No. So remember, whenever you look at critical reasoning questions, you will have to look at things as a judge will look at things. You have to you have to critically evaluate everything. You cannot take things at face value. Okay, you will have to you will have to be absolutely certain that A leads to B. Not every time A will lead to B. Unless that chain is established that yes, A will definitely lead to B, you cannot very easily make a conclusion. So this entire process of critical reasoning requires you to behave like a judge. You have to behave like a judge. You have to evaluate all the evidences, and you have to check which one is the most compelling evidence. That is the kind of skill that is required. It requires common sense. Okay, let's see. Let's see how many of us we have common sense. Let's see. Okay. Now, in what ways are you going to see the questions? What are the kind of questions that you will normally encounter in critical reasoning? In critical reasoning, one question can be, what is the conclusion? What can you infer? What can you conclude? What must be true? What is most supported by the paragraph? What is the main point? This happens when there is no conclusion in the argument itself. In the paragraph, there is no conclusion. The question is asking you to find out the conclusion. Okay. Or questions can ask you, what is the assumption? So what is the assumption? How will you answer what is the assumption? Assumptions are those that most strongly support the conclusion. Remember that. Or they will ask you, what will strengthen or support or justify the conclusion? So which option is going to strengthen the conclusion? Which option will prove the conclusion right? That option you will have to select. Sometimes they will ask you to weaken or undermine the conclusion. Sometimes they will ask you to find the flaw in the reasoning. In such situations, you will have to find out that option which is most strongly proving the conclusion wrong. So over here, you have to prove the conclusion right. Over here, you have to prove the conclusion wrong. Over here, you have to prove the conclusion right in assumptions. Okay, and that is why conclusion is very important. Because if you don't know what is conclusion or what are you going to prove right or wrong, okay, sometimes they ask you to resolve the paradox. Some questions will ask you to resolve the paradox. Okay, for example, they will say when the prices when the prices of gold, when it increases, very strangely the demand also increases. Because normally when prices of something increases, the demand decreases. But the paradox is that when the prices of gold increases, the demand also increases. What can be the reason behind this? So this is a paradox, okay? So he will ask you resolve the paradox. So what is the reason behind increase in demand of gold? So from the given options, you will have to select an answer which will give you a reason why the demand is increasing, even though the prices are increasing. Okay, that is how you resolve the paradox. Sometimes they will ask you questions on parallel reasoning. Parallel reasoning means they will give you a situation and then they will say, if the same parallel reasoning is applied, which of the following must be true? For parallel reasoning questions, remember, I'll show you some examples also. For parallel reasoning questions, what you'll do, whatever is happening in the paragraph, you will look at an option where the same thing is happening. Same things happen. It has to be parallel. Okay? Wherever the same thing is happening or the parallel thing is happening, whichever option, that is going to be the answer for parallel reasoning questions. You will better understand this with examples, which I will show you in the course of our practice. So these are the major question types. These are the major question types that you are going to encounter in critical reasoning. Okay? Please check. Anything you did not understand till now, anything requires clarification, please ask. You'll have to go through this PPT once or twice, okay? Because there's a lot of terminology used here. You may have to go through this PPT once or twice. Even if you forget the terminology, if you use your common sense, I think critical reasoning questions, you will be able to do it. Let me show you some questions. 5 point, that is paradox. Resolve the paradox, Jatin. Okay. Resolve the paradox questions. You know, these kind of questions, they will talk about a situation where something very surprising is happening. A situation where something very surprising is happening. Okay. For example, normally what happens when the prices of something increases, the demand decreases, isn't it? People don't buy that product. That is what normally happens. But surprisingly, when the prices of gold increases, the demand also increases. When the prices of diamond increases, the demand also increases. So he's asking you what may be the reason behind this strange behavior? What is the reason behind this strange occurrence? This strange occurrence, what is the reason? Okay, right now, what you have to do is the options that will be given to you, when you read the options, they will all be giving reasons. Which of those reasons most strongly tells you why this strange occurrence is happening? That option is going to be your answer. Okay. Okay. So let me show you a few questions here. He says, question number 1, life expectancy is the average age at death of the entire live born population. In the middle of the 19th century, life expectancy in North America was 40 years, whereas now it is nearly 80 years. Thus, in those days, people must have been considered old at an age that we now consider the prime of life. Okay? Which of the following is true? Undermines the argument above. So, what will prove this conclusion wrong? What is he saying? He's saying that in the middle of the 19th century, that means somewhere around 1850, if you were 40 years old, you were considered to be old. If you were 40 years old, you were considered to be old. Okay. But today, now in the present, when you are 40 years old, you are considered to be in the prime of your life. When you are 40 years old, you are not considered old. You are considered to be in the prime of your life. That means you are in the greatest period of your life. Okay. So you have to undermine this argument. You have to prove him wrong. You have to prove him wrong. How will you prove him wrong? Tell me. From the options, how will you prove him wrong? Read the options and tell me. Okay, Aditya, you have marked B. Okay, you have marked B. Anupam also has marked B. Now see what is happening. He says the average age. He's talking about average age. So average age in the middle of the 19th century was 40, whereas now average age is 80 years. So the average age has increased. Okay. Now, when you talk about averages, remember averages, they are very dicey. Averages are very dicey. They do not necessarily give you a correct picture. For example, if in the middle of the 19th century, out of 100 people, out of 100 people, let us say, if 40 of them died within a year of being born, if out of 100 people, 40 people died within a year of being born. So 40 people have died. However, the remaining 60 people, they live on to, for example, to be 80 years old. It's possible, isn't it? But when we calculate the average, when you calculate the average, the average life is going to drastically reduce. Even though the majority is living till 40, till 80 years, just like in the present, the average age is 80 years. So in that time also majority was living, many people were living till 80 years, but because a lot of children died within a year of birth, so automatically when you calculate average age, the average age is going to come down. So how am I going to prove this guy wrong? Number A is not right. Number A is not right. Whatever the population, whether the population is smaller or larger, that is immaterial, because I am calculating average age. So whether the population is smaller or larger, that does not make any difference, because what I have calculated is average age. So averages will has no impact on the number. That is why number A is not right. Number A is not right. Answer for this question, rightly marked by Aditya and Anupam. Answer for this question should be B. It should be B. If I say most of the gains in life expectancy in the last 150 years have come from reductions in number of infants who died in their first year of life, That means earlier, out of 100, 40 children used to die within a year of birth. The remaining 60 went on to live till 80 years. So these 60 people, because they lived till 80 years, when these guys were 40 years old, they would not have been considered old. So this conclusion falls. This conclusion falls. Now what happens is, now instead of 40, there are only 10. Instead of 40, there are only 10 children who die within a year of birth. The remaining, the remaining 90, the remaining 90 people, they go on to live till, let's say, 80 years or more than 80 years. So when you calculate the average, you get a higher average life expectancy. So number B will most strongly undermine the argument, because it says that whatever gains in life expectancy has happened, it has happened because number of infants who are dying in the first year of life, that has reduced. If it has reduced, then automatically the average will improve. Should be B. Answer for this question should be B. Did you understand? Did you all understand what happened here? Anybody has any doubt, please ask. Anything that requires clarification, please ask. Any other option you think can be right? Is there any other option that can be right? Anybody? Okay. Should I move to the next one? Question number 2? Okay. Question number 2. Now I'll give you some time to solve this. Can I switch off the video if it is not required? Okay. Okay. So take 2 to 3 minutes to solve question number 2. Okay. So what is he saying? Yes. Very good. Answer should be C. What is he saying? He's saying that scientists, they will place seismic stations on the ocean floor. Okay. Now these seismic stations, they they will, because they will record all the sensations that are happening, or because of earthquakes. So we will get some kind of warning. They will send us a warning, and because they will send us a warning, because we will be forewarned, we can take steps to evacuate. So we can evacuate, and many of deaths, injuries and deaths, it would actually be avoided. So he's saying that if we place expectations, because we will record the vibrations because of earthquake, and because we will be able to evacuate, many injuries and deaths would be avoided. The question is, if you want to, if you want to say with certainty that this proposal will achieve the desired results, what will you have to with certainty say? You will have to with certainty know. You will have to know for certain that yes, if I place these stations, these safety stations, when they, the moment they record that yes, there is a tidal wave coming, we will get enough time to evacuate. So that is why number C is right. Will there be enough time after receiving a warning of an approaching tidal wave for the communities to evacuate safely? For example, if these seismic stations, they give you information just 10 minutes, just 10 minutes before the tidal wave is going to hit, what will you be able to do in 10 minutes? Nothing. Nothing. So even if these seismic stations, they have given you warning, but the desired result will not be achieved if this warning is not much beforehand. You need at least 2 3 hours, at least 2 3 hours, so that you can evacuate. Otherwise, if it is giving you warning, but it does not give you enough time to evacuate, then what is the point? What is the point of placing these stations and knowing that you cannot do anything about it? Yes, everybody marked C. Very good. Very, very good. Anybody has any doubt here? If you have a doubt, please stop me, okay? Any option you would like to check, we can check. But use your common sense. Use your common sense. I think you will be able to sail through easily. Question number 3, he says, homeowners aged 40 to 50 are more likely to purchase ice cream and are more likely to purchase it in larger amounts than are members of any other demographic group. The popular belief that teenagers eat more ice cream than adults must therefore be false. So he's concluding that teenagers eat more ice cream than adults. This belief is false. Why? Why is he concluding this? Because the people who buy ice creams, they are in the age group of 40 to 50. Question is asking you, the argument is flawed primarily because the author does what? Why is this argument flawed? Because this guy is assuming that whoever purchases it is the person who consumes it. Yes or no? This guy is assuming that whoever is purchasing it, he is the same person consuming it. I mean, if I am 40 to 50 years old, I am working, so it is but obvious that I am the person who will have the money to pay. Teenagers are not working. So if a teenager has to have an ice cream, he will have to get the money from his parents, his or her parents. And parents are going to be in the age group of 40 to 50 in all probability. So even though the consumer is a teenager, but the person who's purchasing it may not be the teenager. So yes, the argument is flawed because it fails to distinguish between purchasing and consuming. The person who is purchasing something is not necessarily the consumer of that thing. Can it be B? Let's see. The argument is flawed because the author does not supply information about homeowners in age groups other than 40 to 50. Why do we need this information? There is no need for this information. We don't need any information for age groups other than 40 to 50. Whatever he's saying is based on his census or survey in the age group of 40 to 50. Number B is extra information which is not required. It is not required. Even if he supplies information, even if he supplies information about homeowners in the age groups other than 40 to 50, nothing will happen. You will come to the same conclusion that he is assuming that the person who's purchasing it is the person who's consuming it. The flaw is that he is assuming that the purchaser and the consumer are the same. So yes, answer for this question should be A. Okay, clear for all of you? Number 4, question number 4. According to a prediction of the not so distant future published in 1940, electricity would revolutionize agriculture. Electrodes would be inserted into the soil, and the current between them would kill bugs and weeds and make crop plants stronger. Okay. Which of the following is true? Most strongly indicates that the logic of the prediction above is flawed. So what will he do? He will pass current, and this current will kill the bugs and weeds. But this current will make the crop plant stronger. I think even before reading the options, I can tell you what is the flaw. Before reading the options, I can tell you what is the flaw. The flaw is how will the current differentiate? How will the electricity current? How will it differentiate which what is a bug, what is a weed, and what is a crop plant. So whatever impact this current is going to have on bugs and weeds, the same thing will also happen to crop plants. So if this current will kill bugs and weeds, it will also kill crop plants. If it is going to strengthen crop plants, it will also strengthen bugs and weeds. Yes, yes, I think number D is the answer. So this argument is flawed because weeds are plants. Weeds to plants ही होते हैं ना, and that is why electricity will affect weeds in the same way as it would affect crop plants. How is the current going to differentiate? Yes, answer is number D for question number 4. But I'm giving you a chance to look at other options also. If you believe any other option can be correct, please let me know. All clear? Should I move to the next one? Number 5. Question number 5. The amount of time it takes for most of a worker's occupational knowledge and skills to become obsolete has been declining because of the introduction of advanced manufacturing technology. Given the rate at which AMT is currently being introduced in manufacturing, the average worker's old skills become obsolete and new skills are required within as little as 5 years. Which of the following plans, if feasible, would allow a company to prepare most effectively for the rapid obsolescence of skills described above? Very, very simple question. Very simple question. It tells you that a worker's skills are going to become obsolete very quickly. Why? Because these days there's something called advanced manufacturing technology. Because of AMT, a worker's skills will become obsolete very quickly. In fact, there are some skills that will become obsolete within 5 years. Not even they will not even last for 5 years. Okay, so if a company wants to prepare for the obsolescence of skills, what should it do? If it is feasible, what should it do? What do you think? Okay, I have three answers here. All three of you are saying E. Yes, you train them whenever training is required. Yes, whenever training is required, whether it is within 2 years or 5 years or 1 year or 6 years or 2 months, that is immaterial. Whenever training is required, you provide the training which is necessary for meeting the job requirements, and that way you can fight obsolescence. Absolutely. Number E is the answer for question number 5. Do you need to wait for 5 years? Should the employees receive training after every 6 years? No. Why? Because there are some skills that would become obsolete within as little as 5 years. So you cannot wait till 6 years. Many people try to mark A also. That is why I discussed A. Okay, good. Very, very good. Number 6. Question number 6. What about D? Anupam, what about D? Okay. Before the introduction of AMT, the company will institute an educational program to inform its employees of the probable consequences of the introduction of AMT. Okay. So the only thing that you will do is that you will inform, just informing, you will beat it obsolescence. No, everybody theoretically knows, they have been informed that their skills will become obsolete. Will this information, yes, will this information beat obsolescence? No. So merely providing information is not going to help the company deal with it. Okay. Apeksha, your question is, are we eliminating C because it's kind of incomplete? Let's see. The company will periodically survey its employees to determine how the introduction of AMT has affected them. Okay. So the company will find out how employees have been affected and then do what? Merely finding out or determining the effect. Will it help the company fight rapid obsolescence? No, number C and number D are just the same. Number C and D are doing the same thing. They are passive. You're not actively doing something. C and D are passive measures. Okay? That is why C and D will not work. Should be E. Number 6. Traverton City Council wants to minimize the city's average yearly expenditure on its traffic signal lights and so is considering replacing the incandescent bulbs currently in use with arrays of light emitting diodes, that is LEDs, as the incandescent bulbs burn out. Compared to incandescent bulbs, LED arrays consume significantly less energy and they cost no more to purchase. Moreover, the costs associated with the conversion of existing fixtures so as to accept LED arrays would be minimal. So, a particular city, it wants to replace bulbs, and instead of bulbs, now they will put up LEDs. LEDs, they consume less energy, they cost the same, they cost no more means their cost is the same. Plus, whatever is required for conversion, whatever is required for conversion of existing fixtures, the conversion costs are almost minimal. You can avoid it. I mean, you can ignore it. And not much is required for conversion from bulbs to LEDs. So through LEDs, this city wants to save costs. They want to save yearly expenditure. Now the question is, which of the following would be most useful to know in determining whether switching to LEDs will help to minimize the travertines yearly maintenance costs? Maintenance cost will minimize. What do you need to know? They believe that when they switch to LEDs, then LEDs they consume less energy. LEDs the price also are just the same like bulbs. But overall, will you be able to minimize the maintenance cost yearly? You would like to know what? For this, you have to know, yes, number A, whether the expected life of LED arrays is at least as long as that of the bulbs. Because if it is not at least as long as the bulbs, then they will require frequent replacement. So let's say a bulb worked for 2 years. It costs 100 rupees. Okay. Now LED cost is 100 rupees, but it works for 6 months. LED works only for 6 months. So in 2 years, you will require 4 LEDs. But the 400, that means 400 rupees. And earlier, you were investing only 100 rupees for 2 years. So even though you have switched to LED, but your maintenance cost has actually increased. So it is very necessary that the service life of LED is at least as long as that of the bulbs. Okay? Did you understand? So yes, answer is A. Everybody marked A. Any other option you think will make sense? Okay. Are you getting a hang of things? This is how, these are the kind of questions that you will normally face. They're all common sense. Okay, this also is very common sense question. In order to reduce the number of items damaged while in transit to customers, packaging consultants recommended that the True Save mail order company increase the amount of packing material so as to fill any empty spaces in its cartons. Accordingly, True Save officials instructed the company's packers to use more packing material than before, and the packers zealously acted on these instructions and used as much as they could. Nevertheless, customer reports of damaged items rose somewhat. So even though I'm using a lot of packing material, the reports of damaged items have kind of increased. Why? This is a paradox. I'm using more. I'm using more packing material, but damages बढ़ गए. Why? How is it possible? So, which of the following will help us to explain why acting on the consultant's recommendation failed to achieve its goal? Because normally, when we increase the packing material, then what happens? We believe that there's going to be less damage, but in this case, very contradictory thing has happened. What can be the reason? Absolutely. Number B. When packing material is compressed too densely, it loses some of its capacity to absorb shock. Yes, number B is the answer for question number 7. Good, very good. What about C, Meher? Number C. The amount of packing material used in a carton does not significantly influence the ease with which a customer can unpack the package. So please understand that whatever damage is happening is not in the transit. In number C, whatever damage is happening is when the customer is unpacking the package. Our intention here was to reduce the number of items damaged while in transit. What happens to the package when it reaches the customer, how he handles it, how he unpacks it, that is beyond the purview of this company. And that is why number C is not right. Okay, great. I think there are 14 questions in all. 7 we have already solved. Let's come to question number 8. We'll solve it together. Question number 8. Wood smoke contains dangerous toxins that cause changes in human cells. Because wood smoke presents such a high health risk, legislation is needed to regulate the use of open air fires and wood burning stoves. Okay, so wood smoke is dangerous and we need to regulate it. Which of the following is true? Provides the most support for the argument above. What will prove that yes, wood smoke is dangerous? Very simple. Jatin, you mark C. Okay. Smoke produced by coal burning stoves is significantly more toxic than smoke from wood burning stoves. So coal is more dangerous than wood. So why do you want to? Why will you? Why will you regulate the use of wood? A will not. C will not work. C will not work. You are trying to prove that wood burning is more dangerous. Okay, so C will not work. Number A, the amount of dangerous toxins contained in wood smoke. So toxins in wood is less than automobile exhaust. If it is less, then it will not result in pollution. So why do you want to regulate it? Why do you want to ban it? First ban automobile exhaust. Yes, answer for this question is E. In valleys where wood is used as the primary heating fuel, The concentration of smoke results in poor air quality, and that is the reason why wood smoke should be banned. Yes, number E is something which supports. You have to support the argument. You have to prove that yes, ban is required. Number E says that yes, ban is required because it results in poor air quality. Okay. Number 9. A certain automaker aims to increase its market share by deeply discounting its vehicles' prices for the next several months. The discounts will cut into profits, but because they will be heavily advertised, the manufacturer hopes that they will attract buyers away from rival manufacturers' cars. In the longer term, the automaker envisions that customers initially attracted by the discounts may become loyal customers. So an automaker, he will slash the prices, he will discount the prices, he wants to attract customers from the rival manufacturers, and he believes that initially the customers that were attracted by discounts, they will become loyal customers. In assessing the plan's chances of achieving its aim, it would be most useful to know which of the following. So whether this plan is going to work or not work, it is very important to know what. What is very important? Number A, yes, whether the automakers' competitors are likely to respond by offering deep discounts on their own products. If the competitors also offer discounts on their own products, then why will customers be attracted towards you? They will go to the competitors. So even if you discount it, you will not be able to make loyal customers. Perhaps some people will buy your product, but they will not become loyal because these are discounts that are available everywhere. A should be the answer. If the competitors also offer deep discounts, then this strategy is not going to work. Okay. Okay. Number D does not make any sense. The idea is not to make profits. Idea is to attract customers. His intention is to attract customers. In fact, he's ready to cut into profits. He's ready to cut into profits. So even if the cost, even if he's not able to cut costs to maintain profit, that does not make any difference. He's already expecting decrease in profits. So number D is not useful at all. This is something for which he's already prepared. 10. Question number 10. In Swartzen territory, archaeologists discovered charred bone fragments dating back 1 million years. Analysis of these fragments, which came from a variety of animals, showed that they had been heated to temperatures no higher than those produced in experimental campfires made from branches of white stinkwood, the most common tree around Swartskins. Okay? Which of the following is true? Would, together with the information above, provide the best basis for the claim that the charred bone fragments are evidence of the use of fire by early hominids. So what will prove that early hominids used fire? What will prove that early hominids used fire? Because these bone fragments, they are charred. These charred bone fragments, they come from 1 million, they are 1 million years old. Okay. And when we analyze these fragments, what did we find? What did we find? We found that they were heated to temperatures no higher than those produced in experimental campfires. Experimental campfires means when people make a campfire. So these fragments were not heated to at a temperature higher than the experimental campfire. And these experimental campfires were made from the branches of the tree white stinkwood. And this tree is the most common tree around Swartskin. So what he's trying to say is that there probably were people 1 million years back. There were some people. They must have killed animals. They must have built up a campfire. They must have used the stink wood that is available in this region. They must have built a campfire and they must have roasted these animals and eaten these animals. Okay, that is what he's trying to tell us. So, what is going to prove? What is going to prove the claim that the charred bone fragments are evidence that the early hominids used fire? How will you prove? Tell me. Somebody has marked D, somebody has marked E. Okay. Okay. Number D, Jatin, will not work. Time, look at the time. These fragments are 1 million years old. Number D is 500,000 years old. It will not work. They are not from the same time periods. They are not from the same time periods. Okay. 500,000 means 500,000. 500,000 years ago, the question is not whether hominoids were able to use fire 500,000 years ago. The question is whether they were able to use fire 1 million years back. What is going to prove that hominids were able to use fire 1 million years back? Yes, I think Aditya, you are right. Answer for this question should be E. The bone fragments that were found, they were in several distinct layers of limestone that contained primitive cutting tools. So we have also found primitive cutting tools. Wherever we found bone fragments, we have found primitive cutting tools, and we know that these primitive cutting tools were used by early hominids. That means these bone fragments, these cutting tools, all of them are from the same period. So the hominids, they must have cut the animals, they must have killed the animals, roasted them, and eaten them. Number E is the best proof. Number E is the best proof. Did you understand? Anyone who has a doubt? Till now, anybody has any doubt? Number 11. Question number 11. Flavonoids are a common component of almost all plants, but a specific variety of flavonoid in apples has been found to be an antioxidant. Antioxidants are known to be a factor in the prevention of heart disease. Based on this information, which of the following can be inferred? What can you infer? Yes, yes, it is number D. No, number C कैसे है? It is number D. At least one type of flavonoid helps to prevent heart disease. Absolutely. Number C is not right. Eating at least one apple each day will prevent heart disease is wrong. Why? Because flavonoid is not present in all apples. Flavonoid is present in a specific variety of apples. Okay. Another thing is, please understand, another thing is, you have to look at it like this. Why? There's another reason why C is wrong. Okay. Uh, wait, Jatin, I will explain C. I will explain C in another way. If I say smoking causes cancer. Okay, if I say smoking causes cancer, is it necessarily true that every person who smokes he will actually contract cancer? He will get cancer? No. So so flavonoid is present in apples. Okay, flavonoid is present in apples, and because flavonoid is an antioxidant, it prevents heart diseases. So the mere fact that I'm eating apples does it necessarily mean that it will prevent heart disease? No, no. Okay, when you wear seat belts, seat belts, seat belts protect you during accidents. Okay, so can I say with certainty that if you're wearing a seat belt, you are protected? Can I say with certainty? No, that is why number C is wrong. Did you understand? Justin, did I answer your question? No. What what are you trying to say? Specific is used only for one, meaning there's a specific variety of flavonoid in apples. So apples have a specific variety of flavonoid. So if I consume apples, will it necessarily prevent heart disease? Right now I give you two examples that it is not necessary. That is why C is wrong. Okay? Is this clear why now C is wrong? Okay. Let's come to 12. Question number 12. These are all CAT questions. Okay. This one is also a CAT question. The importance of the ozone layer to terrestrial animals is that it entirely filters out some wavelengths of light, but lets others through. Holes in the ozone layer and the dangers associated with these holes are well documented. However, one danger that has not been given sufficient attention is that these holes could lead to severe eye damage for animals of many species. Which one of the following is most strongly supported by the statements above if they are true? Now, what is he asking? What is the question? Which of the following is most strongly supported means what can you conclude? What can you conclude from the above? What can you conclude from the above? Can you conclude A? Can you conclude A? All wavelengths of sunlight that can cause eye damage are filtered out by the ozone layer where it is intact. Can we conclude this? Can we conclude this? We know that ozone layer entirely filters out some wavelengths of light. Whether these wavelengths of light are the ones that cause eye damage, we cannot say anything. Number A is not right. It is possible. It is possible that the ozone layer lets through some of these wavelengths that cause eye damage. Please understand. You can't say with certainty. Number A will not work. Jatin and Aditya, you marked A. Please understand why A is wrong. Okay. Now coming to number no Anupam and Ravi, you mark A. Aditya and Jatin, you mark D. Number D. Let's take a look at number D. What can you conclude? A single wavelength of light can cause severe damage to the eyes of most species of animals. No. How can I conclude this? How can I conclude this? The word over here is many species. Over here, it is written most species. There's a difference between many and most. No, number D is not right. Most does not mean many. Most means majority of them. Many means many of them. They may not be majority. Number D is not right. Okay. Answer for this question is E. Yes, answer for this question is E. We can safely conclude that there are some wavelengths of sunlight that cause eye damage. They are likely to reach the Earth's surface where there are holes in the ozone layer than where they are not. So there are some wavelengths of sunlight that will reach the Earth's surface where there are holes, and these wavelengths can cause eye damage. That is why he's saying that one danger is that we are not paying attention to the holes, and sometimes these holes can lead to severe eye damage. That means there are some wavelengths that cause eye damage, and they through the holes they can reach the Earth's surface. Number E is the answer. This is what we can conclude. It does not tell that the eye damage are for animals. So what? It can cause eye damage of for animals of many species. So eye damage और किसका होगा? I think that is understood. Jatin, I think that is understood. That is understood. Trees don't have eyes. Oceans don't have eyes. Okay. Animals, how do you know in animals he is not including humans? Animals of many species, humans also are animals. Jatin? Okay. Okay. Did you understand why E is the answer? What is he asking you to do? What is most strongly supported? What is most strongly supported means what is the conclusion? From the reading of the paragraph, what can you conclude? And we can conclude that if he's saying that there is a danger, that means there is a possibility that these wavelengths can reach Earth's surface and they can cause eye damage. Yes. For question number 12, answer is E. Okay. Very good if you've understood this. Anybody has any doubt in any of the options, please stop me. We are in no rush. Okay, two more questions to go. Question number 13 and question number 14. Interesting questions, number 13 and 14. 13 is interesting. In an experiment, 2-year-old boys and their fathers made pie dough together using rolling pins and other utensils. Each father-son pair used a rolling pin that was distinctively different from those used by the other father-son pairs. And each father repeated the phrase rolling pin each time his son used it. But when the children were asked to identify all of the rolling pins among a group of kitchen utensils that included several rolling pins, each child picked only the one that he had used. Did you understand? Father and son, they are using a rolling pin. Okay? There are many groups of father and son. They are using rolling pins. And when they are using rolling pins, the father tells them, this is a rolling pin, this is a rolling pin. Okay? All the rolling pins are slightly different. They are distinctively different. There are small differences. Now, all these rolling pins are kept together, and other utensils also are kept together. And the children are asked, which all are rolling pins? So what do the children do? The children pick up that particular rolling pin which that child was using with his father. From this, what can we infer? What do we understand from this? Number E, Jatin, is absolutely not possible. If the children were not able to distinguish the rolling pins that they used from other rolling pins, if they were not able to distinguish, then how did they pick up exactly that one that they had used? Not possible. Not possible. Number E is not possible at all because each child picked up only the one that he had used. That means they were able to distinguish the rolling pins very clearly. What this means is that when when the father must have said this is a rolling pin, when the father must have said this is a rolling pin, okay, let us say this is a rolling pin, and this rolling pin, it was inside this rolling pin, it was written A. It was written A. When I ask the child to pick up a rolling pin, the child will pick up this rolling pin which has A written on it. He did not pick up other rolling pins. Other rolling pins had B, C, D written on them. This child picked up just A. The B, that means that the child believed. This means that the child thought that this particular object which has A written on it, this is the only thing which is rolling pin. All the others on which B, C, D are written, they are not rolling pins. That is why he picked up only A. So it can be inferred that no two children understood the name rolling pin to apply to the same object. Answer is B. Answer is B. Number D is not possible. Number D is not possible. I'll tell you why number D is not possible. Why is number D not possible? Because number D is already stated. It's already stated. This is what he's saying. Each child was able to identify correctly only the utensils that he had used. And another problem is that he's talking about utensils. Over here, we are particularly concerned about rolling pins. Rolling pins are one of the utensils. In number D, what we have done is that we are talking about utensils in general. So this is kind of, skirting the question. The question is not about utensils, but just the rolling pins, which are a part of utensils. And plus, I think this is kind of stated. When he says each child pick up only that one which he had used, that means each child picked up only those utensils which he had used. So number D is already mentioned. Number D is kind of already mentioned. Answer for this question is B. When the father said this is a rolling pin, then the child thought that the one that I'm using, that is the only thing which is called rolling pin. Other children who are using them, that object is not called rolling pin. That object is called something else. So they did not understand that rolling pin is a generic term. They did not understand that rolling pin is something that applies to many objects. Did you understand? Anybody has any doubt, please ask, because this was a very nice question. In fact, the 14th also is a good one. Is it absolutely clear why the answer is B? If there is confusion, ask, please. Very good. Very, very good. And don't worry, if you're not able to solve many questions, don't worry. When we with practice, you will start, you will start picking up things. You will start picking up things. In the first session, second session, generally there's a lot of discomfort. But when you read this kind of material again and again and again and again, slowly, steadily, things will make sense. Don't worry. We are coming to the last question for today, question number 14. This one is very interesting. What is he saying? The increasing complexity of scientific inquiry has led to a proliferation of multi-author technical articles. Reports of clinical trials involving patients from several hospitals are usually co-authored by physicians from each participating hospital. Likewise, physics papers reporting results from experiments using subsystems developed at various laboratories generally have authors from each laboratory. If all of the statements above are true, which one of the following must be true? What do you think? What does it tell us? These days, there are lots of multi author technical articles. there is a proliferation. Proliferation means exponential growth. Okay, lot of very fast growth. Proliferation means very fast growth. So these days there is there's fast growth of multi-author technical articles. When the technical articles are multi-authored, then what happens? When the technical articles are multi-authored, then all the authors, if they are physicians from different hospitals, all of them will provide input from their hospital. Okay. So when it is a multi-authored article, then all the authors will provide inputs from their hospitals or departments. Similarly, the same thing happens with physics papers. Physics papers that report results from experiments using subsystems developed at various laboratories will generally have authors from each laboratory. Okay? If this is true, what must be true? Many of you have marked B. I think you think it is B. B is saying most reports of clinical trials involving patients from several hospitals have multiple authors. No. No. Number C is not right. When a technical article has multiple authors, they are from different institutions. No. They can be from the same institution, different departments. Number C is not right. Number C is not right. Answer for this question is D. It is D. Physics papers authored by researchers from multiple laboratories will report results from experiments using subsystems developed at each laboratory. Okay, let us say there are three people, A, B, C. These three people work in hospitals XYZ or laboratories XYZ. They have jointly written an article. This passage is telling you because it has been written by all three A, B, C, all of them will make contributions from their respective institutions or departments. So A, B, C, they will talk about experiments that happened in X, Y, and Z. Okay. Now X, Y, and Z can be different departments of the same institution. It's possible. Or they can be different institutions. But when the article is multi-authored, when there are many authors, then there's going to be contribution from each of the departments or laboratories or institutions. That is for certain. And that is why B is the answer. Why is B not the answer? B is not the answer because it is saying most of the articles are multi-authored. But that's not true. There can be some articles that are not multi-authored. Whatever is being said is only and only when an article is multi-authored. If the article is not multi-authored, then whatever he's saying does not apply. Okay, that is why B is not right. Number C, when a technical article has multiple authors, they are usually from different institutions. It looks good, but it's not necessary that they are from different institutions. They can be from the same institution but different departments. Yes or no? So, for example, let us say there is a school. Okay, school is framing some rules of discipline. Discipline code. The school is framing discipline code. Okay. Now, for this discipline code, the physics teacher, the chemistry teacher, the biology teacher. These three teachers are together working and framing a discipline code. Now, according to this passage, because there are three different people, they are going to provide inputs from their respective laboratories. So, physics professor will provide some input from his physics lab, biology professor from the biology lab, and chemistry professor from the chemistry lab. This is certain. Ye certain hai that if it is multi-authored, then each author will provide some input from his laboratory or his institution or his department. And that is why we are saying when physics paper is authored by researchers from multiple laboratories, then whatever experiments were developed at each laboratory, all of them would be reported. They would be reported. Okay. Now are you getting this? But that does not mean that every article will always be multi-authored, or authors will necessarily be from different departments or institutions. That is why B is not right, C is not right. Number A also, let us check. Anupam, you marked A. Clinical trials involving patients from several hospitals are never conducted solely. You can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say that. How can you say they are never conducted solely? They can be conducted solely. The entire passage is only talking about situations where the article is multi-authored. It is possible that some articles are not multi-authored. That is why answer for this question is B. Is it clear for all of you? Apeksha, you are saying, but B is not saying all, it is saying most. So why even most, Apeksha? I have a problem with the word most. In fact, if he had used the word many, then B would have been right. I mean, no, not necessarily. Even if he has used the word many, B would not be right. B would not be right. It is the other way around, actually. Please understand, what you are saying is other way around. When an article is multi-authored, each author is going to give some input from his department, from his laboratory, from his institution. Based on this, can you say most of the articles have multiple authors? No. Even if I use the word most or many, number B is not going to make sense, because it is only when the article is multi-authored that everything comes to play. Are you getting this, Apeksha? Okay. When you buy a premium car, you pay a lot for maintenance. When you buy a premium car, you pay a lot for maintenance. Okay. So if I say you are paying a lot for maintenance, does it necessarily mean that you have purchased a premium car? No. Yes or no? It's not the other way around. Okay. Jatin, what is this? Are you okay? I mean, was there any question? Apeksha, did you understand what I'm trying to say? So number B is the other way around, okay? That is why it is not right. Okay, so that's it for today. That's it for today. We are going to continue with the practice tomorrow. And tomorrow now I'll keep quiet and I'll give you time to solve questions and then we'll discuss them. Tomorrow when we meet in the morning from 9 to 11, we'll continue with the discussion. That's it for today from my side. If there is any query, I'm here for another 5 minutes. Otherwise, you can log off. We'll take a break and you will start your next task at 9:30. Good night, all of you.
Music